will take the effects off just to be... I don't want to, though. And it's a very focused vintage sound. That's an amazing chord. Let me show you that.
I love that chord.
You can leave this here if you want.
Hey, thanks for joining us. It's Tim and Pete's Guitar Show.
How you doing?
We're here with the fantastic Josh Smith.
What's happening?
It's a dream for me, man.
Oh,
really?
Man, thanks. Likewise, dude. I'm so excited to be hanging with you guys.
You are building a new studio here.
Yeah.
Where are you from originally?
I'm from Florida, like the Miami, Fort Lauderdale area.
Okay, cool.
And I was born in Connecticut, actually, but we moved to Florida when I was 1. And so I grew up down there. And I've been out here now in LA for 13 years.
Okay.
And you're still pretty young. How old are you?
I'm 36.
Yeah, young.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that, but I don't feel so young anymore. I don't know about you guys, man, but when I first moved here, and I started gigging when I was 12 years old. I was always the youngest guy in every situation.
And that changed?
Yeah, I was too, and then it all changed.
It's funny, that happens to all of us, I guess, right?
I guess it's unavoidable, yeah.
But you, the type of music you do, you're absolutely at the forefront of and you're doing such good work because in blues and jazz, both, it's just like there's not enough guys doing the blues thing and doing the, and
Thanks,
you're
man.
so good at it. It's just like,
it's weird. The blues world is a weird world, and that's where I grew up, and it's what I love. But when I moved here, I purposely came here to stop doing that almost. Like I came to LA because I got married and I wanted to be an actual grown-up adult and make a living.
Right.
And I knew the only skill I had was playing guitar, and I thought I was good enough to play guitar just as a sideman or do sessions and stuff. So I moved here, and it ended up mostly being a good move. I've worked relatively consistently since I've been here, but it's funny how over the last 5 years it just completely has gone back towards me doing my own thing much more every year. Whereas this past year, I would say 60% of the year was my own stuff as opposed to being on the road with other people or doing sessions. And
yeah, it's like the business forced you back into being an artist.
It did,
Yeah.
and also it changed what I do as an artist, doing all that other work. Playing a bunch of music I would have never played before. Before I moved here, I was a good player and I could read okay, and I knew music, but I'd never ever played a pop gig. I never did top 40. Like from the time I was 12, 13, I was just playing blues and gigging and then writing and doing my own stuff and putting out records. So I'd never backed people up. I'd never learned about why, hey, what's that tone on that record? I didn't know, that's a Casino and an AC30. It's just, I wasn't obsessed with gear and all that. It took me kind of coming here and learning more about guys like Tim and befriending Mike Landau and guys like that, and realizing there was this whole other bucket of skills that I had never worked on, and learning all that over the last 13 years changed everything I do in the blues world. You know what I mean?
that's kind of cool. Do you think it for the positive?
Absolutely.
Expanding your...
Absolutely. It changed the way I write. It changed the way I hear harmony, the way I think about tone. It changed the way I perceive other musicians. I'm always looking for, not the best, most flashiest cat. It became more like who's the right guy for every situation. I was more obsessed with feel and tone and everything being great, and also it informed my playing. I learned so much new shit, playing with whatever, playing with an R&B band,
Sure.
or learning how to time delays. I never did that ever.
Yeah, I remember when I first learned that. It was another guitar player that showed me. Yeah.
Yeah, I had
Michael
no
Thompson,
idea.
actually.
Oh, really? Michael Thompson?
Yeah.
And he's a freaking genius
Yeah,
at that stuff.
yeah.
And I had no idea how to do any
Yeah.
of those things. You know what I mean? Like,
Huh.
I had one delay setting that I used because it was my sound, and that was all that mattered. And I met a lot of guys once I moved here who jump around from gig to gig, and I would say some of these guys, their biggest skill is nailing other, the tones that other people
Yeah,
want,
right,
and
right.
it was such a different world that I had no idea about that world.
Yeah, this city taught me to be a good rhythm player too. I had no rhythm chops when I showed up here.
Huh.
Just jumping in the big pool and having to swim is what taught me rhythm chops.
What
So,
year did you
similar to-
move here, Tim?
It's 1979.
79.
1979. Yeah.
That's the year I was born.
Yeah.
And
I do it in
how quick
79.
did you start working once you moved here? That's one that always curious.
It was quick because it was a big giant campus and a big university that was the music business, and there was a lot going on. New Wave was really huge. There were lots of little pickup bands, and I would get gigs out of the Recycler. Do you remember the Recycler?
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
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 When you first moved here, were you doing way more sessions or way more live work?
More live work.
More live
Yeah.
work.
Yeah. And easing into sessions.
And like, how did you pick LA over? Because I know for me, like going, so were you were living in Florida then?
Yeah,
At
I
that
was
time,
living
so
in
going to East Coast to West, like I know
Yeah.
the idea of moving to the East Coast for me would be a huge step, just because I've just been so on the West Coast my whole life. So to
Right.
come all the way to LA.
Was Nashville a lure for you at all?
Nashville was a lure, and even honestly now Nashville's a little bit more of a lure now than it was then, because I feel like in the last 15 years the country part of me has come out so much more, and I think I
Yeah.
could
Yeah.
work a lot there.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Of
But
course you could. Yeah.
I had one family member who lived out here, my uncle, who's a composer actually. He does film composing, and so before I decided to move, I said, "Can I come stay with you for a couple weeks?" And I'll go out every night, see what the scene's like, try to meet people. So that's what I did. I came and I stayed at his house for like 3 weeks, and I went out every night, just shaking hands, going to
Wow.
open jams, handing out CDs, cards. And I realized that, I'd been to Nashville plenty on the road, and I realized that at least if I came here, the diversity of the work that I could get myself into was much larger. I could just find myself doing so many different things every day, and I was more interested in that.
It's always been that way here.
Yeah.
It's a great thing.
Yeah.
It's the whole world of music. People from all over the world come here, so yeah.
I felt that like an energy here when I
Yeah.
first came here. There was like every day people were getting things done, sessions or making
Yeah.
records or what, and that energy. Back where I'm from, I remember it was like, you're in a band. We're gonna record some songs maybe next month, but
Right.
the singer's busy at work and this guy's busy. But when you come to LA, and it's like there's just stuff.
Well, it
happening.
seems like here there's no rule book either. Other places there's like a set way they do things and a set way things sound. Here it's kind of wide open.
Yeah, that's true. Right? Even
And
in
guitar
Nashville.
players here were rewarded for being quirky, or even if you go for it and make a mistake here, you were rewarded for that, for taking chances. So
Yeah.
it's better in that way. I think.
That's an interesting thing. I was going to ask you about that. I've found that in my 13 years, as I've settled into, I guess, like my role here in LA, that the gigs that I get called for, the sessions I get called for, I'm getting called because I sound like me and not because I can just do whatever
That's
they ask
Absolutely.
That's great.
Yeah.
And it's a blessing and a curse, kind of. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because like I don't get called for certain tours
Yeah.
because not that I couldn't play those parts. I could, of course I could. But it's like that I get called for these gigs that more fit my little ball.
I think it's
Yeah.
100% blessing, because I've always much preferred people wanting me than wanting a guitar player, wanting a guitar to fit in that guitar chair.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
100% a blessing, I think. So,
I had a situation
Yeah.
where a producer hired me once. I went and did a session for him. It was a finger picking acoustic thing, just a very simple thing, which is not my forte.
Neither.
And he just thought of me as that guy
Oh,
from then
yeah.
on. And he would hire me and go, "Yeah, I got another one of those." And it was so funny. It was like I went and worked for him a lot doing it. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I only do this when I come here.
yeah.
But the gigs that I get though, they tend to last longer because they really wanted you. They didn't just want some guy.
Well,
that could
the
just do it right.
thing I'll tell you about that that's most valuable is that person is the person that's going to call you over and over and over. They're going to be loyal.
Yeah.
And once you get a number of those people, then you're set.
Do you do any of those sessions where they're via the internet, but where they're watching you while you do it, like the video sessions?
I do occasionally, and they work okay, but I much prefer just having the people in the room with me. I try not to do a lot. I mean, there's work that you enjoy doing more than other work, and at this point, I try and gravitate towards that work.
It's probably kind of the Wild West, right? Like, I mean, I think a lot of these things, everybody's still experimenting to see if it works.
And the great thing about that is you can design the work that you want to have. Make it work for you. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
Do the Skype session that you like.
Well, that
Don't
was
do the one
part
you
of
don't
the
like. Yeah.
part of the reason, that I built this place is I had so many things in mind that I could almost just add to my day-to-day usage. And honestly, a lot of it was inspired by really both of you guys so much so. You so much so that guys come to you for sessions. They come to your place.
Well, I got inspiration from him.
Exactly.
You
You're the top of the heap when it goes to that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And then you're the top of the heap when it goes to, demonstrating these products. You do a better job than anybody even.
That's
no
the
one
reason
comes
I gave it
close.
up, is because of him.
Well, no one comes close, you know what I mean? Because you put so much effort into it. It's but I get asked just roundabout constantly. Every day it's like, hey, what would you charge me to do a demo of this product?
Right.
Or can I send you this? And if you like it, will you do a video? And it's like, I knew I could do more of that. I knew I could do more mail sessions.
Absolutely.
I knew I could do way more of my own music, which was a plan for the last few years to just release much more material. I started hanging out with Bonamassa a lot, and that's one of the models that he follows, which is he just releases without fail at least a record a year, most times 2 records a year.
Wow.
And it's always stuff coming out, and I realized, well, I could do that. Like, I'll do, there's all these projects I want to do, so it's like that acoustic record that Kirk Fletcher and I have been talking about for 10 years, we're going to do it in 2 weeks, you know what I mean?
Right.
And it's like the jazz record that I've had planned forever, I'm just going to do it, or riff rock this or that, or whatever,
It must be incredibly inspiring for you to see Joe and what he's done as a kind of an independent, doing his own thing, putting out records all the time and going and playing in big places. He's selling out crowds and getting great, he's got a killer following. That's got to be really inspiring.
Honestly, it's blown my mind.
In your world, because you can go do that.
Yeah, I think your time is here now. Maybe it wasn't when you were 22. I think your time is now.
Well, if anything, it shows me that it's not a complete pipe dream.
No.
You know what I
Absolutely
mean?
not.
Because he's 2 years older than me, and it took him a long time to get to this level that he's at.
Yeah.
And it's super inspiring because Kirk was playing rhythm with him for a tour on this Three Kings tour that Joe did. And Joe has been such a good friend to me and to Kirk. He's gone out of his way to help us on occasion. And he's on a level now, like, that's plusher and, like, rolling harder than, like, some of the, like, big pop tours I've done in the last 15 years. With, like, more buses and more trucks and more crew. And it's like, and he's playing blues.
And he's in
charge. It's so inspiring.
It's his show. He runs the ship.
Everything is his, it's all him.
Oh, wonderful.
It's unbelievably inspiring.
So are you in a Les Paul period now, or what's your guitar?
I'm in a little bit of a Les Paul period, right? This is my main guitar. It's been my main guitar for over 10 years. It's a Chapin. He calls it a T-Bird. It's a Telly, obviously. This is like a 50s style ash body, one-piece maple neck. And it wasn't relic. Everybody asked me that. That's just what I've done to it over the last 10 years.
Yeah.
It was just really thin, one coat of black. And I've played it so much that it's just worn out. But
what is it about the? Did you start on tellies? Is that what?
I was a Strat guy for sure most of my life. What about you?
I started on Strat, and I was very comfortable. You know what was tough for me playing Gibsons was the height of the strings off the body on a Fender style guitar, and then going to a Tune-O-Matic, that for me was and also the change neck angle, but that was a little weird. So this I was very comfortable with.
I started
that height.
so young that my first guitar was acoustic, but my first electric was like a 3/4 or half scale Strat that had one pickup like in the middle.
Okay.
And after that it was all Strats, you know what I mean? Because I was obsessed. It's funny though, my first heroes were BB, Albert King, Freddie King, all Gibson guys, But the first good guitar I ever got was a Strat, And then, I was obsessed with Jimmy too, with Jimi Hendrix, and Magic Sam played a Strat. And then Stevie, of course, once I found Stevie, that was like, whoa, that's the sound I've been waiting for. So I played a Strat most of my life. Like, until I moved here, I had played nothing but Strat, basically. And then I started, I had some Tellys, but I never had one that I fell in love with. And I associated, as a kid, I associated Telly with, that's a country guitar, you know what I mean? Right. And it's like, then when I moved here, and the awakening became, oh shit, I don't have an amp that sounds like the Beatles. I don't have a Gretsch. I don't have a what if somebody asked me to sound like Tom Petty? What if somebody asked me to, I was like, shit, I don't have any of that gear. So I started, trading stuff away, filling each, kind of spot in the arsenal.
Right.
And this guitar just happened. I met this guy, Bill Chapin, and I ordered a Strat from him because he made great guitars. I played a Strat he made. So I ordered a Strat. I got it. Blew my mind. Was great. And a tour was coming up that I knew I needed a Tele for a bunch of the stuff. It was like a really kind of soul thing, and I needed the Steve Cropper sound. So he did it real fast, this guitar, sent it to me, and it was like light bulb moment the second I got it. Like, whoa, I've been waiting for this guitar my whole life moment. Like this, and I haven't looked back since I got this guitar.
Will you show us a few of your
Yeah.
favorite tones?
So it's like I use really heavy strings. So it's just it's already a big sounding guitar.
13 through 56.
13
Yeah.
through 56. So the neck pickup in this is a Lawler. That's kind of like the straight into the amp neck sound. Here's both pickups. Sound that I needed when I didn't know I was missing. It was like a Tele only a Tele does that sound, you know what I mean? And it was like to get that it's like you can only get that from a Telecaster, you know what I mean?
Right.
And then the bridge pickup is one that Bill wound himself, and it's really it sounds stupid, but it's kind of a magic. I can play I play just the entire gigs on this pickup, just changing my attack of how I play, rolling my volume,
right?
And it's just it's super fat but still twangy. But if I lighten up, especially with my main pedal, the Chula, which is a really organic pedal, no knobs. It's just reacts to the volume and the playing really well. So I can go from like it can be so clean if I want. If I dig in, kind of once I got this guitar and that pedal, it was like that's my sound, and it's been for about 10 years now.
And so you mess with other stuff, but that's still what you go back to.
Always would I go back. That is my sound.
Yeah.
And it's normally through a combination of a Fender style amp and a Vox style amp together, which also took me a long time to find that combination.
Now, when you record, do you record both?
The
pick one.
recording I more specialized
pick one.
towards what
Yeah,
I want
okay.
for that sound,
Yeah.
Because I'll use a Marshall in the studio, I'll use whatever. But yeah,
Do you feel like live that the combination of a Vox amp and a Fender amp fills in the different frequencies?
that's exactly what it is. Because I have some stereo patches like in the H9, but it's more for me about the blend of the two amps. I never go from one to the other. They're both on all the time.
Like the Fender's probably kind of a warm pillow, and the Vox is like this sizzly thing.
Exactly.
Covers the
mids,
bottom.
just-
With the mids
Yeah.
and because the Fender's so scooped.
Yeah.
So that's how I actually met Morgan, which is the guy who makes all the amps I use, because he makes a great Vox style amp. So I had searched him out because he's local, and I went down and I immediately ordered that one, which is the AC40, to use with my vintage Super, and it was so good. And Joe became such a good friend that quickly it became, man, I think you could make me an amp I'll like even more than my Super, and that I'll be comfortable taking on the road, and that's where this one came from.
Are any of these the GOAT?
This is the GOAT.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the JS40, the GOAT. Well, because I told Joe, because he was like, we should make an amp with your name on it, the Super one.
Yeah.
Because I said, I want a Super, but I want a 3-knob reverb tank, and I want a huge cabinet, but with only 212s. I want it to look like a 410, but with 212s. So he's like, all right. He's like, well, I said, and if you're gonna put my name on it though, you gotta knock it out of the park. It has to be the greatest amp ever. So he named it the greatest amp of all time, the GOAT. Yeah.
We're going to start using the GOAT about everything, I think.
I'm gonna pump you up. No.
I was really... Oh, no. Go. What?
I was gonna say it's time for cool gear.
Time for cool gear.
It's time for cool
I
gear.
just jumped all over you. I'm so excited. You're a fan of using batteries.
Big time. You know, it's funny, all those years of everybody thinking Eric Johnson was nuts.
Right.
He's not nuts. He's totally not nuts. Like, I hear it so it's clear as day, the difference in batteries, and especially the difference between batteries and the power supply. Now, all my drive pedals on this board, including my main one, the Chula, but then the Fuzz, the Third Stone, the Purple Plexi, are all coming off this battery box here, which literally is like, it just has this thumb screw on the top.
Okay.
Now, this was an idea I had when I first moved to LA. I went to Bob Bradshaw and I said, I want a box with a battery.
Cool or what?
And Bob made me the original one that's still in my old rack.
Yeah.
And it had a switch. And then Mason from Vertex actually built this one, which was on my old Vertex board before I switched now to this board. But I kept that box because it's killer. It's got 4 batteries in it. It comes from a tap off this. So the second I plug in the whole board, it knows to turn on the batteries. And if I unplug the board, it shuts off the batteries. So I don't have to unplug the pedals, you know, the input jack for the ones that I want the battery on or anything.
And the battery can die, and you're still covered, right?
Yeah, it backs up to that when the battery.
Wow,
That's
I've never seen anything
cool.
like that. That is cool. That is
So
cool.
Mike,
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and say this. Landau totally ripped the idea off of me because he has it on his board. He saw my original one and he bugged Bob and Bob forever to make him one, and Bob never did. And then he got Mason to make it for him. So Mason took it to the next level, that battery
cool.
box. But you can,
Love
dude, even the batteries in there, notice one's different than the others because I think that one sounds better with the fuzz than the other one.
Yeah, well, you got to be right then. I'm gonna pay
Yes,
attention
our gear
from now
now.
on.
Because these are all carbon batteries. That's the other thing. I
Oh.
use all carbon batteries as opposed to regular alkaline, like no
Okay.
Duracells or anything.
They don't last as long, of course, right?
Well, these, it depends on how much draw the pedal takes, but no, they don't last as long. But they sound way different and they feel way different. And it's almost like imagine like a tube amp. You know how when if you hit your guitar really loud and it gets
Yeah.
all this input, the amp sags down a little
Yeah.
bit? The battery does the same thing. So it's like when I'm playing, especially on drive pedals, on a Fuzz or the Chula, it's like the battery gives almost.
Like a little
you know what I mean?
variac
Yeah, it
situation.
really
Oh,
does.
that's good.
So what's running off the batteries? The Plexi?
The Purple Plexi, the Burkos Third Stone Fuzz, the Chula, and then underneath here is an octave pedal, a love pedal called the Believe, and
Okay.
that's on the battery as well. So that's this one.
Oh yeah.
It's like a real clean octave.
Yeah.
It's kind of a variance on the old Dan Armstrong plug-in, the Green Ringer pedal.
Green Ringer.
Right.
Yeah, it's real clean. I just like you can play lower than you can with an Octavia. You can almost chord with it, and you can play bridge pickup with it. It doesn't completely take your hit. Yeah,
Wow,
and
that's
then I
cool.
can combine it with other pedals if I want to get the Octavia sound, or maybe
And it
a
still
little
has that
bit
squawk.
different
When you use
sound.
your fingers, that's what I love the most, is that squawk.
Yeah, like if I put it with the
Yeah.
Chula, then it's like a little bit different than the Octavia sound.
Oh yeah.
But if I put it with the Fuzz, then it's kind of the Octavia. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, those are all on the batteries. And yeah, I found that the Third Stone sounded better with that Black Cat battery that I get from the dollar store than the other ones. Because these GI carbon ones I order from this website, no joke, called batteriesandbutter.com.
Wow.
They sell nothing but batteries and butter. And I order a box of 100 batteries at a
You
time.
can't make that up. You can't make that up.
Someone told me about it and I Googled it. And I was like, it's real.
Batteriesandbutter.com?
Batteriesandbutter.com.
So go to the website on your screen, batteriesandbutter.com, and check it out and make sure you buy lots of butter.
So here's like my main sound. And with the knob all the way down, when I switch to it, it's just barely.
What about if it's totally bypassed? What's that?
It's just clean. And if your amp's loud, it blasts the front of your amp. You know, it's a big boost. You know.
Can I turn this up while you play?
Yeah, so here, do the second side. So watch, go ahead, turn it. It's scratchy.
Right, like
Not
the
really.
super hard-on's one of my
Yeah,
favorites.
that's what it is.
Yeah.
Full on, it cleans up better than.
Wait, I quit. I'm done. I'm gonna go be a garbage man.
Part of it is my strings too. My strings deliver a lot of output. You know what I mean?
13 gauge. He uses
Yeah.
13
Yeah.
gauge,
Yeah.
which is like,
Which I found on the Les Paul was not too bad, but the minute I picked up one of your Fender guitars, it was like, oh, my hands
Yeah.
are not meant for this.
And see, for me, it's like I'm so from the Fender school and
Yeah.
so used to that scale that to this day, when I play Les Paul or a 335, in my mind, I feel like I'm hacking it up because my vibrato gets wider.
Right.
My bends
Yeah.
go over a little
Yeah.
bit because
Right.
it feels slinkier than what I'm used to. You know
what I
mean?
noticed picking up your guitars was that I agree, the 13s didn't feel, it wasn't as dramatic as I thought it
Yeah.
was going to be.
Felt good on
And-
the Les Paul.
And it kind of slowed me down in a cool way,
Yeah.
like where it's like, oh, I play a little more like,
Yeah.
like with a little more intention, and the vibrato's a little slower and everything.
Right,
It's-
right.
You can because you really got to work for it, and that it was cool.
That's another people ask a lot why, like why do I do it? And besides the tonal
The tone.
factor,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
other factor is that playing these strings do not allow me to mail it in ever.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
Like I
Yeah.
have
That's
to at
Yeah.
all times
Yeah.
be going. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I can't even like honestly, as silly as it sounds, I've been playing these gauges for. I'm 36 now. I've been playing these gauges since I was probably 14 or 15.
Wow.
So I'm so used to them. But even now, if I take like it's probably happened once in 10 years where I went a week without playing guitar. But like it's painful to come back to the guitar
Sure.
after waiting that long.
Yeah.
I have to play every day.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
so that's a great question. Do you practice?
Yeah. And in fact, the last month since this has become like a relatively finished space where I can sit out here, now I can like I'm doing now. I can do this at 3 a.m. now. Nobody
Yeah.
can hear. You know.
Yeah.
So it's like I've been doing that every night, and I've been kind of just sitting. I set up a little makeshift table with a laptop there, and I've just been, I've been shedding again lately.
Yeah.
Late night shedding, which is what I used to
Yeah.
do when I was a kid. And I practice. I try
What
to.
shows? Of course you do. Yeah.
I try to. Man,
Yeah.
I don't know about you. There's just always something new I want to learn.
Yeah.
Right.
I'll hear something you do or
Yeah.
something you
Yeah.
do or certainly something fucking
Yeah.
John Schofield does, but
Yeah.
play it and it'll be like, what the fuck?
Right.
Like the other day, literally, I mean, it's like I was sitting there and he played this fucking, it was just like an A major 7 thing and he played, it perfectly works, but I never thought of it. He played A flat pentatonic over it. Like, holy shit!
And
Like,
that's
never once had I had that thought ever.
The flat 5 is perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was
Yeah.
like, wait, I
Yeah.
can do that over like the 2/1 thing, and it's kind of like that flat 5 sharp 4
Yeah,
thing,
yeah.
and it's like,
I never thought of that.
Damn. Okay, so there it is. It's like teeny. Man, I can't believe how small. It's like 1/3 the size.
Yeah, I just love it on my pedal board. It probably sounds a little more modern than.
We got Josh Smith playing and Tim Pierce working the wall. Let's see what happens. This is going to be fantastic.
You got to do it, dude.
All right, here we go. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, my cool gear for today is this thing, which is my 1 watt Marshall. It's the GTM 1, I think it's called. And I bought it off a guy.
Is that really what it's called? That's awesome.
Yeah, the JTM. And I bought it off a guy off the gear page. I'd always wanted one since they came out, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, and they only made them for like a year. But it's 1 watt. And to me, I plugged it in. It's like, damn, this thing really sounds like a little baby JTM 45, and it really kind of does that thing. So.
And it looks like those new Bluetooth speaker ones that they have. Like it's.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah.
You get a Best Buy, right?
Yeah. It feels good though.
Pretty good in that mode, right? Like, so this is 0.1 of a watt mode, which is like, you know, it's like about TV volume, like what you listen to.
Oh, that's
really good.
It still feels right to me at that.
Which is the biggest problem with a lot of those half power switches or power scaling or attenuation. Yeah, it does. It's nice. It's really nice.
Very quiet.
It's like below. It's below speaking volume. It sounds really nice. Thing, man, I as a kid being infatuated with it's like, okay, I like Larry Carlton, I like Robin Ford, I love Stevie Ray Vaughan, I love Eric Johnson. Wait a minute, they all use these Dumble amps?
Right.
What is this Dumble amps? You know?
Yeah.
There was no internet, I couldn't just Google it, you know, and it was like, so when I'd never even seen one until I moved here, and I would run into guys who had them or collectors and play them. And then I I don't know Robin that well, but I know Larry. I got to play with Larry as I played, a couple others. And there's been a few that I played that just completely just freaked me out. They're so good. And then others that were just like, eh. But also he voiced them for whoever bought them initially.
Yeah.
So it may not, and after it leaves him, people open him up and mess with him. But
Sure.
So I searched him out when I first moved here. I looked him up in the phone book, and he was in the phone book. Oh, Dumble's in the phone book. Because, dude, the first thing I did when I moved here was go meet Bob Bradshaw.
Yeah.
I was so excited about that.
Yeah.
And then I was going to find Dumble,
God, I did that with from Canada with Jose.
Oh,
I
really?
went to Jose. Yeah,
Did you?
I love that guy. Yeah.
I heard
went to
about
Jose.
him,
I
of
had him
course,
do an amp.
like
Yeah.
Eddie Van Halen more, and I
Yeah.
was like, and I called directory assistants in California or whatever, and from Canada, and I got
Really?
him on the phone. Yeah, and
Behind the
it was
vacuum cleaner shop on Van Nuys Boulevard.
Oh, I never
Right.
met him.
Yeah.
He was
He had a little tiny spot behind a vacuum cleaner shop.
I just
on
remember
Van
calling
Nuys.
him and speaking to him on the phone about it. I found a 100-watt Marshall, like a 73 Super Lead or something. And I thought, I'm gonna call him. It was like a call. I was probably 13 years old. I called him and I
Jeez.
said, like, if I buy this amp, can I send it to you and have you modify it?
Yeah.
It was really cool.
So I just moved here. I found him in the phone book, and I called.
Right.
And a machine picked up, said, you've reached Alexander Dumble, And beep. So I just said, hey, my name's Josh Smith. I just moved here.
Right.
I'm a huge fan of your amps, and was just wondering, if you still sell them, or if, what you got going on these days.
Right.
So I thought, whatever, he'll never call me back. I left my number. Like 4 days later, phone rings, says, I think it said like unavailable. It didn't show the number, and he's like, this is Howard Dumble. He called himself Howard, not Alexander. And I said, oh my God. He kept me on the phone for 2 hours.
Really?
2 hours. He's a really interesting fella.
Yeah.
And he's like talking about things like panning for gold and collecting. He collects guns, vintage guns, but panning for gold was a big thing. So anyways, he said, here, man, I never heard you play. I don't know you. He's like, here's my address. Send me some of your music.
Right.
And I said, all right, cool. So he gave me his address, and I did. I put together a little package, and I sent it to him. I thought, I'll never hear from him again. He called me again, and he was like, dude, I got your package. I really like your playing.
Wow.
He's like, I could hear how you would get the benefit of having one of my amps. You would understand.
You passed his audition.
Yeah. So he was like, but I don't really make them anymore, and you couldn't afford them, honestly.
Josh, what is this little speaker cabinet?
This is my Benson Leslie cabinet that we were playing through earlier. So the front, doesn't have, the sound shoots out the back. So it goes fast, slow, and stop. It has, actually, I didn't even tell you, it has an 8 in there.
Is that right? That's
8
And
inch.
the thing is, we heard it by itself, and by itself, not even on, the speaker sounds really good.
Yeah, it's a really high-powered, clean 8.
Yeah.
Because the thing about Leslie's, like the Vibratone that I had, they're very dark sounding. You got to hit them with a bright amp, you know what I mean? Because it's just a cabinet. There's no power in here. The only power is the power to spin the motor. So it's just like a regular speaker cabinet. So you need an amp for it.
It's so nice and small. Is it available?
It is. He's been sourcing more motors and pieces because the second I got it and posted about it, like 20 people were hitting him up
Yeah.
like, can you make me one of those?
Yeah.
So Josh, this is control room for
This is a control room.
your new studio that you're building. You're still working on it. It's a work in progress, but
Pretty close. Yeah, so this is a control room. You can see like the windows there to kind of look into the live room. There's not that much left to do. Like all this foam that you see on the walls is kind of, we've been listening and treating, and we've got it sounding the way we want in here, so now I have to make it look good. So like each little section of this will be in a frame with fabric stretched over like you would see at any studio.
And you were telling me you took one panel and listened, and you took another
one at a time, and then we'd tear it down and be like,
That's
listen, this guy Rick Ruggieri, his ears are absolutely incredible. And he'd have me and my buddy standing back here on ladders. And see there's 2 layers here?
Yeah.
It'd be like, okay, one, he's like, I want to put a second layer. But when I tell you now, after we put it, when I tell you, tear it back down. And we tear it back down, and he's like, oh, no, it's got to go back up. And it was like, I could barely hear the difference, and he could hear it. But it took this room just sounds really balanced already, but it just kind of turned the reverb down in here.
You have double layers on the ceiling, I noticed, and it's
There's
a single.
double on the layer,
Yeah.
on the ceiling,
Yeah.
single on the side walls, triple on this back wall.
Okay. Yeah.
But the nice thing about
Bass trap back
the
here.
dimensions of this room was that no corner traps are going to be necessary anywhere in here. It wasn't really pulling up at all in the corners. It was really balanced and nice sounding in here, and that's just because of the dimensions, the way that he designed it.
so he designed it kind of no parallel walls and that whole deal.
Exactly, and you want a certain length, and then you got to sit in a certain spot, and it's
Nice.
it's a whole. I don't know any of that stuff. You know what I mean? I just know what sounds good. I like to think I have pretty good ears, but I mean it's a different level. From he can sit here and go ha ha, and it's like he immediately hears, oh, this is too much of this and too much of that.
So thanks so much for having us over to your place. We appreciate it so much.
Thank you guys for coming. So I'm just loving being able to have people come over. I got a spot now.
It's going to be a magnet for
I
good
hope
music.
so.
This
I
room.
hope so.
Wonderful listening to you play. And where can we check you out? Social media? What's your? We'll put all your links on.
JoshSmithGuitar.com or Facebook / Josh Smith Guitar. And please hit me up. I try to be social.
Fantastic. And come back and see us real soon for more episodes of Tim and Pete's Guitar Show. We're filming more real soon. We're going to do more of this. We're having a good time hanging out with fine folks like yourself.
Yeah.
Hit subscribe on both our channels if you would. We'd really, really appreciate it. And hey, over and out. We'll see you soon.